Talk Live.
Welcome to Free Talk Live. You're invited to join us right here. Our toll-free number for you is 855-450, free, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We also have the Discord call-in lines over at discord.lrn.fm. And that is our online chat system where you can chat with other Free Talk Live listeners around the clock. And during the show, there are call-in lines there that'll allow you to call in and sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And Johnson.
And Silver Dave.
And coming up, we are going to be talking about prostitution, both abroad and at home. Johnson, you've got a couple different stories about that. And then Silver Dave, you want to discuss mind control. That will be interesting. That'll be on the way here as well. Plus, I also have a prostitution-related story, an update on the Robert Kraft arrest. Do you know who that is?
Oh, the name is so familiar, but I don't recall.
He is the owner of the...
I was busy thinking when you said both prostitution, both abroad and at home. I was thinking that maybe you were talking about abroad in your home or something. I don't know,
That's not the case in this case, but that's quite... Was it called in-call? Is that where the girl comes to your house?
Yeah,
I always get it confused whether or not in-call is where you go to the girl's house or the girl comes to your house. Because there's out-call and there's in.
I don't know.
There's out-call and there's in-call.
Not to be confused with a house call.
Yeah, well, one of them is the...
I'm guessing out-call would be the one where she's
comes
going
to you.
Somewhere else.
It would make sense that it would be focused around what she's doing.
Yeah.
So we can talk about the legalization of prostitution and the criminal aspect of it, I'm going to put quotes around that criminal aspect because there's no victim to this particular so-called crime. And the gentleman I'm talking about here, Robert Kraft, he's the owner of the New England Patriots.
There we go.
Yeah,
nice.
he got busted in an undercover sting operation down in Florida. So he wasn't living at home or probably has a second home or something like that. Down there, the man is, I believe, in his late 70s, if not his early, 77 years old. And there's a story that I've actually been holding on to for a few weeks from the Sun Sentinel. That's one of the papers down in Florida, explaining some of the details of how they say that the cops bungled this case from the beginning. They screwed up their investigation, did illegal things, and now they're getting called onto the carpet for it. So we can talk about all that. Did you have the Mexico story?
I don't have it up.
All right, so let's start with Robert Kraft here, and we'll give you guys an update. Have you heard anything about this, Silver Dave, this Robert Kraft guy?
Well, I haven't heard anything about the prostitution in relation to him.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was until this article came out.
Well, but when you said the name, it sounded like someone who is rich and famous. And now that you've connected, we're talking about someone who's rich and famous, which really makes me wonder how he has. I mean, he ultimately, when you're that powerful and wealthy, you still are paying for sex, in my opinion.
Probably.
In a way.
I suspect.
Even if it's not a direct contract for, like, here's what I'm going to pay you and here's what you're going to do. It's just like, I have a lot of money. You want money.
Well, yeah.
You find me attractive because I have lots of money.
They have girls that call themselves sugar babies.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Oh, it's like a sugar mama, only more young and fresh.
Well, a sugar mama, well, I don't know. How would you define a sugar mama? I guess a sugar mama is like a woman who gives you money, right?
Oh, yeah.
A sugar baby.
Sugar daddy.
Right. The sugar daddy
has the money.
Has
sugar mama's got the money.
Right. So the sugar daddy has the money, and they have these sugar babies. And so that's where, Cody Wilson, for instance, who we've had
what I was going to mention,
had on in the show in the past, the guy who created the 3D printable gun last year, he got arrested for having, I believe she was 16, allegedly, a 16-year-old young lady, meeting with her through a website, which the website purportedly helps people who want to be sugar daddies or who are meet with these young women who want to get money purportedly in return for sex. And he paid her, allegedly, and they had sex, and then he got arrested and is now facing felony charges and maybe more than a dozen years in prison. I haven't seen an update on that case.
Because somehow that site didn't have any age verification requirements.
I don't know how many of these dating sites actually do verify ages. I've been on a few different dating sites. They never asked me for a copy of my ID.
Right.
Yeah.
You just
would you even want to do it if you had to provide your ID? I mean, a lot of people want to be more private. If you had to provide your ID, would you even want to do that with them? I don't know.
And especially if you're going to be paying for it. I mean, you're even less likely to want to to show them identification.
Yeah.
So we could actually, it'd be interesting to do a search and see if there are any updates on the Cody Wilson case, because I think that was all the way back in August of last year when he got popped. Yeah. So, I mean, I would think we would have caught wind of something, because a lot of times, our listeners in the Discord server are constantly putting useful show prep in the news and show prep section there. So I imagine that they're still waiting for whatever trial date will be coming up, but we'll see over time. Now, speaking of trials, this Robert Kraft character, the story again from the Sun Sentinel, says here the prostitution sting that ensnared billionaire Robert Kraft was doomed from the get-go because of a string of law enforcement missteps, according to court observers who've watched the case quickly unravel.
Wait, you're telling me that the police did not do a good job doing their job? Wait, no,
you're shocked, aren't you?
I'm shocked. I can't believe how this is possible.
No, it's totally believable, because and as they point out later on here, what you'll find out when it comes to the police is a lot of times they're cutting corners. A lot of times they're doing things the wrong way. They're doing things illegally. And they just usually don't get called on it. They usually don't get caught for it because most people take a plea deal. Most people look at the charges, they say, and they want it to go away as quick as possible. And they say, all right, what do I need to do to make this go away? Well, just take the plea. We'll give you a suspended sentence, 2 years suspended. Just be on good behavior and pay $1,000 fine, and we'll call it a day.
This is going to show you how not level the legal system is in, every country, but here as well, because this guy Kraft, he's got a lot of money.
Yes,
so of course he's got a good legal defense fund, and so his lawyers are going to pick apart every bit of this investigation. So if you were Joe Schmo and you got picked up for this, then you're going to take a plea deal.
That's right.
Because your court defense lawyer shows up in moccasins, and you're like, oh, I'm in major problem. This is my...
you may have a public defender.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Your public defender shows up, and this guy, doesn't know what he's doing. This guy's got a lot of money he can spend on it, so he's going to get a better defense. So of course, they're going to tear apart the police investigation.
Well, I remember the last story we talked about this guy's investigation was they'd offered him a sweet plea deal. They'd already come to the table and said, hey, look, we'll make it so you don't have any penalty whatsoever, not even a suspended sentence. All you have to do is admit that you did it.
Just say you're sorry.
Right. Just admit that we were right and that you were guilty of prostitution. And dude was like, I'm going to trial. And so now we start to hear the details in the case. Because once you're willing to go to trial, then what opens up is something called discovery. And discovery is where you as a defendant have the right to know what the evidence, putting that in air quotes here, is against you. And they have to provide it all to you, because you need to know that in order to be able to build your defense for the trial. So that's when you really start to find out where the corners were cut and what they screwed up. So what began as authorities' mission to bust criminal activity in massage parlors across Florida has turned into a monumental legal victory for Kraft and others charged with soliciting prostitution. The defendants have won rulings in their favor, including a watershed moment this past week. Now, this was a few weeks ago, when the judge in the Kraft case prohibited prosecutors from using secretly recorded sex videos. Joseph Tacopina, a former New York City prosecutor who recently filed a federal class action lawsuit claiming cops violated constitutional privacy rights by using covert cameras in a Jupiter spa, said, quote, this case has been bungled from the beginning in every way. From illegal video recordings to illegal traffic stops. We'll learn more here in just a moment about how they screwed it up. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. They could have just left people alone. Let people, pay for screwing, whatever. That's what people want to do. Who cares? Let them.
Safer.
We'll get into it. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You dial toll free if you want to join us here. We're talking about the prostitution case against Robert Kraft. And according to the Sun Sentinel, which is one of the newspapers down in South Florida, they've looked into this. And according to the people they talked to in the legal world, this case that the government has down there, the government goons, against Mr. Kraft, who is the owner of the Patriots, apparently, very wealthy businessman, is just a really shoddy case. We'll tell you more about it here, and it'll lead to a larger conversation about the legalization of prostitution. Apparently, Mexico City looking at, or maybe already has, legalized it. I know, Johnson, you've got that story. Mm-hmm. And then apparently even New York State is actually considering this as well, which would be huge for that industry, which has always existed and will never not exist. But we can talk more about that. Plus, mind control. Silver Dave is here, and he wants to talk about that. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. And I want to make sure you know about My Magic Mud. It is something that I've been using over the years, and I've got some right now up in the LRN.FM bathroom. I use their toothpaste just because I like it. It's easier. I realize it's not maybe the most perfect of products, because like some people swear, like Mark, our co-host, he swears by the tooth powder that they have, their original product, and that's probably the best one for whitening teeth. But, you know, I'm not a huge coffee drinker, so I don't really feel like I need that. And their toothpaste kind of has the benefits of that, and also the benefits of the simplicity of using a toothpaste.
I mean, the point is that bentonite clay is an abrasive, right?
And so apparently it is very absorptive as well.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So highly absorbent, because it's so neutral, just like charcoal.
So, and that's what's in it. It's charcoalized coconut shells and bentonite clay. Mm-hmm. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth. It's available. It used to be something they, were making at their home, and now it's such a big company, they've distributed to most health food stores, Sprouts, CVS, Natural Grocers, and Walmart's Natural Beauty aisle. It's been amazing to watch them grow this company over the years. And, obviously it's having an effect on people. It's working. That's why it's spreading like this. In fact, you can go to mymagicmud.com. You don't have to go to any of those stores. You can get 20% off by using code FTL20. That's code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. And free shipping's available, but you have to have a certain minimum order, and it's not a very large minimum. So check that out at mymagicmud.com. As we continue here, illegal video recordings to illegal traffic stops. Apparently, the case against Robert Kraft has all of that. And we're going to tell you more from the Sun Sentinel. This was the man arrested earlier this year. I think it was earlier this year, for alleged using a prostitute's services in a day spa in Palm Beach County. The prosecutors say it was simply Kraft's bad luck and bad timing that he happened to be in the Orchids of Asia day spa when secret police cameras were turned on. But another view is that it was their terrible luck that Kraft, a 77-year-old who has a home in Palm Beach, was among the people Jupiter police caught in the act. In all previous prostitution stings at South Florida massage parlors, including a few with similar sneak and peek warrants for secret cameras, the cases resolved quietly and mostly out of the spotlight, which is what I was talking about earlier. People want to take a plea deal. They want to get this over with, especially a charge like prostitution, because you're not going to find many people who are like proud that they used a prostitute. I don't know why they shouldn't be. I mean, whatever. I mean, there have been plenty of people who've pointed out that the reason they'll use a prostitute is because you can send her home afterwards.
It's fast and efficient.
Right. You don't have to spend any more time on that relationship than you absolutely want to. So for somebody like Robert Kraft or anybody else who's time challenged, this, makes sense.
Just when Robert Kraft thought he was going to the massage parlor to take a load off.
Well, he did. Allegedly, he did that. They paid. They have video apparently, but now they can't show. They can't show the video.
Oh, but you should see it. It's some good footage.
Wow,
you should see when the linebackers come in, the tight ends,
sprightly 70-something-year-old man.
He can move. I'll tell you.
Few, if any, people charged ever challenged prosecutions. They paid fines. They performed community service hours to avoid embarrassment.
It's like a jackrabbit, a very old jackrabbit.
This time was very different. Even before Kraft entered the picture, Americans were more sensitive to government snooping in their lives. After filing the criminal charges against a proven winner in the New England Patriots boss with endless resources and legal firepower, prosecutors had a battle on their hands. Kraft made a sheepish public apology, but also employed a national legal team with a motto of playing to win. And they did just that. After picking apart practically every aspect of the police investigation and the arguments made by prosecutors, Richard Kibbe, defense attorney who represents a dozen men who've been charged like Kraft, said the whole thing was infected and illegitimate. Kibbe from Martin County raised similar challenges on behalf of his client. So it wasn't only Kraft who challenged these cases. He questions why law enforcement went to extreme lengths by using secret cameras to stop prostitution. Kibbe said, quote, "Somebody should have realized the significance of the fact that this is such an extraordinary invasion of privacy. It just seemed to be fast-tracked and green-lighted, and once it got momentum, nobody wanted to interrupt it." In February, law enforcement agencies publicly revealed they hid recording devices during investigations of 10 spas from Jupiter to Orlando. They said massage parlors, and what I want to know is how did they do that exactly? How did they gain access to these businesses, private businesses, in order to hide their recording devices there? Did they go as clients, and while the girl was out of the room or whatever, or hadn't come into the room yet? You know, I don't know what this is. I don't know. I've never been to a massage parlor. I don't know what the process is like. I don't know if you're waiting in there. You know, like if you go to a doctor's office, half the time you're waiting in there alone, right? Like you're waiting in a room for a doctor to come in. So you have a few minutes, right? If you wanted to pop something up on top of a shelf or something like that, nobody would be the wiser unless they're monitoring with their own cameras in the room. So I don't know how they pulled that off. They said massage parlors were shut down, and several women were charged with pocketing hundreds of thousands of dollars from running the prostitution businesses. Nearly 300 men were charged overall across Florida. Officials said their efforts were aimed in part at targeting suspected human trafficking at the massage parlors. But did they actually arrest anybody for human trafficking? Doesn't sound like it. I mean, we didn't hear any of those allegations. They didn't say Robert Kraft was having sex with a sex slave. They just said he was guilty of prostitution, which is a consensual act between individuals who are capable of consenting. Now, if it actually was a sex-trafficked person, that's a sex slave, and that's a real crime. So, you know, when we talk more about the stories that you have, Johnson, about legalizing prostitution, I've been to these hearings. I've seen in New Hampshire.
What if it's a sex slave, but they don't tell you? They're
unlikely to tell you.
How would you know? You know.
Well, later on, once the busts happen, the police would then question the people that they arrested.
You're a detective. Detect.
Shouldn't there be some sort of like intent? I mean, you would think that like if you were the John in this case, you don't know that you're having sex with a sex slave.
No, that wouldn't be a charge for the John.
I guess.
Unless they did know, right? Like right. Unless the John was told by a pimp or something that this girl's a slave and that like turned him on or whatever. If the John was like a party to the sex slavery knowingly, then he could be charged. But in most cases, you're right. They're going to keep that information from the John. But you want to comment, you're welcome to. Anyway, when I've been to these hearings about decriminalizing prostitution, that's always what the police drag out. Because they come to oppose decriminalization. And they always talk about how, we need to keep this illegal because of sex trafficking. Well, actually, if you legalize it, it helps prevent sex trafficking.
Exactly.
We can talk more about that on the way here. Your calls and thoughts also welcome. Plus, maybe a small update on Cody Wilson when we get to it. 855-450 free if you want to join us. I want to tell you about my favorite cryptocurrency wallet, Edge Wallet, at edge.app. Edge is the wallet I use more than any other, and that was true long before Edge Wallet became a sponsor of Free Talk Live. Edge Wallet allows you to buy, sell, trade, and securely hold your cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokens, Monero, Ripple, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and more. It's available for both Android and iOS, and you can download it via the Play or App Store or via Edge Wallet's website, edge.app. Secure your freedom with Edge Wallet. It's Free Talk Live. You dial in toll-free and bring up anything that you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. With you tonight, Ian.
Hey, I'm Johnson.
Silver Dave.
Yeah, and I want you to know about local.bitcoin.com. It is the brand new website launched by Bitcoin.com to allow you to buy and sell Bitcoin Cash through a bunch of different methods. So whether it's PayPal, Venmo, cash deposits in a bank account, remittances, cash in person, or like a couple dozen other ways, you can easily purchase Bitcoin Cash, or you can sell Bitcoin Cash in a global marketplace. And one of the things that sets local.bitcoin.com apart from some of the other websites out there that might allow these, online crypto sales to happen is on local.bitcoin.com, the conversations you're having between buyer and seller are encrypted. So there's nobody else, not even the website owners can read those conversations. That's useful. Plus, there's no what they call know your customer requirements. There's no identification.
I thought that they were changing that for local Bitcoins.
You're thinking of the other site, localbitcoins.com, which is one of the original sites. That's who local.bitcoin.com is competing with. So
interesting. I didn't know that there were two sites.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that they were the same thing.
No. There's a bunch of them. There's like local Ethereum. There's local there might be a local Dash. I'm not sure. A lot of them don't have a whole lot of volume. And to be clear, local.bitcoin.com is brand new. So it's nowhere near as deep as far as the volume is concerned as say, local Bitcoins.
Right.
But it's well-timed. Because you're right, Johnson, Local Bitcoins used to be a website where you could join relatively anonymously as a buyer or seller. Recently, earlier this year, Local Bitcoins got cracked down on by the Finland government. And they said, well, we're part of the EU. You need to follow the rules, and you have to impose know your customer requirements on all sellers. So they made it so that they made a big change where all sellers had to then show their ID to the site. Well, that wasn't the only thing that they stopped them from doing. They also said you can no longer allow people in Iran to use your site. That was earlier this year. And just most recently, like literally the weekend before local.bitcoin.com, the new site launched, the original Local Bitcoins stopped allowing local in-cash purchases. That was the reason that website was created in the first place.
Right.
Was to allow somebody to meet at like a McDonald's or some other public place, the food court at the mall or whatever, and transact, give cash over in return for.
So the question is, who has a gun to their head?
The Finnish government, apparently, the Central Bank of Finland or whatever, as I understand it. That's
Are they holding the gun, or they have the gun pointed at them?
The government is pointing guns at local Bitcoin. So basically, that site has been. Still very popular, but it's nowhere what it used to be. It doesn't have the privacy aspect that it used to. So local.bitcoin.com is Bitcoin Cash, whereas Local Bitcoins is for Bitcoin BTC. So Bitcoin Cash encrypted and know your customer requirements. And they have what they call blind escrow, because now Bitcoin Cash has the way of having smart contracts. So one other key difference is on Local Bitcoins, you have to have a wallet on the site funded with your Bitcoin. So if the site shuts down, you don't have access to your Bitcoin on that site. Whereas with local.bitcoin.com, there is no on-site wallet. So they're not holding your funds, which means they're not a custodian of your funds. You have control over your funds. You are the one who authorizes putting it into a smart contract. So basically their argument legally is, we don't hold funds, so therefore we're not a money transmitter. Therefore, we're not a this and that. We don't qualify as any of these legal things. We're a matchmaking service, basically. We're helping buyers and sellers get connected, and we don't touch any of the money. They get a cut of the money from the smart contract once it completes, but that's it. It's pretty interesting. So check them out over at local.bitcoin.com. We can talk more about the Robert Kraft prostitution bust botching here in moments, but Will is on the line in Dallas. Will, you're on Free Talk Live. Hello there.
Yeah, hope all's well.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Hey, I had a question. You guys were, well, first of all, I wanted to say Sarah's doing great work representing the communist people of America.
Sarah, our regular caller who actually identifies as a communist, that one?
Yep. Yeah. Those are her, hey, communist, that's what you look like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anyway, question. I've heard you guys talk about arrowwood.org.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you spell that?
EROWID.
That's right. EROWID.org. Great site.
EROWID.
Arrowwid.org. I don't know where the name comes from. It sounds like, some sort of what's that? The guy that wrote the Lord of the Rings. It sounds kind of Tolkien-esque. But I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a drug information site, a useful site that's been around for a couple decades now, I think, that has all kinds of frequently asked questions about a variety of drugs, including, of course, psychedelics and such, illegal drugs. But also there's even information about many prescription medications there as well. Very, very useful.
Yeah, and one other question is, I think I've heard you guys say before that you can send things to them to have it tested.
Oh, no. Although Arrowwood, I believe, is a supporter of the testing site. You know what? They may be an actual financial supporter. I'm not sure what the relationship is. There may be a relationship between ecstasydata.org, that's the testing site, and arrowwood.org. There may actually be a relationship. The more that I think of it, I think that there actually is. But the
ecstasy. What'd you say?
Ecstasydata.org. That's where you can go and you can look. You can see the tests that have been run on pills. Usually they're MDMA or ecstasy pills, or what are purported to be MDMA or ecstasy, sent into this drug testing laboratory. You have to pay, like a $40 fee for a pressed pill.
Sure.
It's a $100 fee, I think, if you have anything else. So, if you want to test heroin or LSD or something like that, you would pay a $100 fee for that. And it's a really useful service because drug users, generally in the black marketplace, if you're in a legal market, then you know exactly what you're buying. But in the black market, you have no idea. And in a lot of cases, buying drugs on the black market, you may get something that is completely different than what it is being marketed as. So it's really actually a smart move for the informed drug user to send their drug to ecstasydata.org, and then what it does is they put it all up on the site publicly. So you get to see the results of everyone's tests, which means that you might actually be able to find the drug that you purchased without having to send it in. Because if somebody else has already sent the same thing in, let's say you got, a
Blue Dolphin,
pill
or something.
Exactly, Blue Dolphin, and you bought it in New York City or whatever. You can type in those things in the search, or just scroll back for a few months and look at all the different stuff that is on there.
Turns out the stuff was Ajax, just like in the Cheech and Chong movie.
Look out. I don't know if that's ever shown up, but there are some dangerous chemicals that are being marketed as though it's ecstasy, and it's not. Sometimes doesn't even have any ecstasy or MDMA in it at all. And this is what will tell you that. It's very interesting.
There are tests that you can get. Isn't there? There's a company, Dance Safe, right? Isn't that the...
I think they're tied in with it. I think they work with them.
Yeah.
What did you say that?
Dance Safe, I believe, is where you can get tests from.
Oh, you're talking about home testing?
Yeah, home testing.
At home test.
To order your own home test.
Those aren't bad, as I understand it. The chemicals, from what I'm not a chemist, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a scientist.
Yeah. Oh, really?
But, I'm just a talk show host. But as I understand it, those those chemicals that you order, they have a shelf life on them. Mm-hmm. And it's not particularly long, so unless you're testing drugs pretty often with a home testing kit, if it's just sitting on the shelf for 6 months or whatever, it's probably not worth doing. And it's going to be a better test when you send it into the lab, because they're using real fancy, I think they call it mass spectrometer, chromatograph spectrometer, high-end testing equipment, to where they give you an absolute readout of exactly. I've done these at-home drug tests before, and you're you got to crush up the pill on a white plate and drop the droplets on it. You got to watch the chemical reaction, see what color it is, and you got to kind of match it up to a color chart, and it's kind of... It's not a more. It's not
so
certain.
pink or red to you.
Yeah. Arrowwood might be the last names of the executive and technical directors of the site. Fire and Earth.
Hold that thought, Will. It sounds like you got another question. We'll get into it here. Your calls and thoughts, whether it's on drugs or prostitution. It's a good night on Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You dial toll free here. Bring up what you want. Our number, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Whether we're talking about prostitution or testing drugs. That's the call that we have on the line. We're going to continue with it because I think it's important information that people know how to take drugs on a more safe basis, because, here on Free Talk Live, we may not endorse all drug use because some of it is, pretty risky and dangerous. But one thing that I do endorse is harm reduction, and that is where somebody who's going to use drugs or who does use drugs can learn more about the drug that they're doing, about how to be more safe with that drug. So hopefully they can survive it. They'd be less likely to have an overdose or something bad happen to them. So we give advice like that on how to learn more, and of course Arrowhead.org is a great website. And Johnson, you said that, I don't know if you said it on the air or off the air, but you actually found the names of the founders of Arrowhead.
Looks like they are a husband and wife team that go by the name of Fire and Earth, or Earth and Fire, Arrowhead.
Meaning their last name is Arrowhead.
Yes.
Okay. I suspect I think they're an older couple.
They don't look that
hippies.
old in this picture that I'm looking at. And apparently they founded it in 1995. They look like they're in their 40s.
Wow, you're right. Okay. Interesting. Well, then I suspect that their parents were hippies or something like that. I don't know.
Probably.
But if you want to join us, you can. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. And then we'll get back into prostitution. That's kind of like the main topic tonight, where we have the details on how the police down in South Florida botched up the case against Robert Kraft and the other men and women who were arrested in the mass prostitution investigation down there that snagged Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots. So we can get back into that. Plus mind control. Silver Dave's in the house tonight here. He wants to talk about that. If you want to join us, our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And I want to say thanks to Chris Grigio, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. Chris, one of our longest-running Free Talk Live amplifiers. Thank you for supporting what we do here. You can join the AMP program for $5 a month over at amp.freetalklive.com. Chris is a gold amplifier, which means he's doing $10 a month. So definitely appreciate it. And AMP helps us promote Free Talk Live to get on more radio stations around the country and bring new internet listeners on board and help people discover the ideas of freedom and harm reduction, which is what we were talking with Will about. And plus, you can get some cool perks for being an amplifier. Go to amp.freetalklive.com. PayPal, credit card, Bitcoin, BTC. You can sign up any way that you choose there. It's amp.freetalklive.com. All right, Will, it sounded like you had more questions. We were talking about drug testing through ecstasydata.org, which is a really useful website for discovering what it is that you may have purchased or your friends may have purchased on the black market and finding out whether or not it's the real deal. That can help people survive, keep alive, rather than taking something they didn't know that they were taking and then have a really bad reaction or possibly death from it. So go ahead. You sound like you had more to say or more questions.
Yeah, I did have more questions, and also don't forget, help people to safely commit crimes, right?
I'm sorry, what?
And help people safely commit crimes.
Well,
I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, I just want to point out that while having drugs or buying drugs may be a crime, it's, in my mind, nothing is a crime unless there's a victim. And in this case,
I get it. I
the
agree
user is not.
And actually, I wanted to take this opportunity to point out something that I think is really worth noting about this subject, and it applies to prostitution as well as the drugs.
Yep.
The only reason that the drugs are potentially dangerous, in my opinion, is because they're illegal. So, like, for example, if
that's one reason for sure.
Well, yeah. But so, like, for example, if cocaine or heroin or whatever was not illegal and you could just buy a pound of it at the grocery store, then you would actually know what you're getting because
Correct.
The manufacturers would, manufacturers who, say, put cutting agents in there and so forth would get discovered, and other companies who made better quality product would attract more customers. And
you don't buy a bottle of aspirin off the shelf at Walgreens and wonder what's in it. You know exactly what's in it.
That's exactly. And you guys kind of taught me that, by the way.
Oh, good. See, we're helping.
No, seriously, that's not a joke or whatever. Anyway, and on a related side note, by the way, having a vape pen that has marijuana in it in Texas is a felony.
My God, Texas is just a crazy place. Thank you, Will, for the call tonight. I appreciate it, man. Real fast.
I'm sorry. How can I worry about mailing something in to that place?
Oh, the drug detection labs.
Well, yeah, and how do you get away with that? How's it anonymous is what I'm trying to get at.
Well, okay, so you're talking about ecstasy data. Yeah, thank you for the call, Will. I appreciate it. The ecstasydata.org, that website, they have instructions there on what you do. So you include a piece of paper with the pill or whatever it is that you want them to test, and that paper has to include certain information. So they don't want your name. They don't care who you are.
Your name and social security number.
Right. Yeah, no, they just want to know.
Where you'll be approximately at the time they receive it so we can come and arrest you.
Yeah, they want to know what your, what you thought it was supposed to be. So they'll tell you what it actually is. They want to know, like, if you can, share where you got it, because that can be useful for other people to help find, I got this same, like you said, Blue Dolphin in New York City. Somebody else might have gotten the same thing and already sent it in. So it kind of helps other people identify, I already have that, so I don't have to send it. Or, maybe they feel more comfortable about not sending the drug if they can already find it or something that looks like it on the list. So you kind of describe the thing and where you got it, and you include the payment, which you don't use a credit card or anything like that. You just, put cash in the envelope. And then at that point, if you're really paranoid, you don't want to send it out of your own mailbox, let's say, like at your house. Just drop it in one of those blue... those postal service blue boxes that they have all around everywhere, basically. They don't know. They're not monitoring that 24 hours a day. There's probably not a camera up watching that thing. When the person at the post office looks at the address, they're not going to know what it is. The address is like DDL. It stands for Drug Detection Labs, and like anybody who were to Google the address would find out what it is. But when it comes to the Postal Service, they have to have a warrant in order to open up your mail. So first of all, they probably wouldn't know it's your mail if you just anonymously drop it in some random, blue postal mailbox. They'd have to be investigating you first, right? Like they'd have to be on your case and watching you 24 hours a day to know that you even went and did that. So the odds that anybody is going to discover this, very, very slim. You don't put a return address on it, by the way, in case that wasn't already obvious. You just address it to the place, put the stamps on it, and then drop it in a mailbox, and then off it goes.
So it's pretty safe. Pretty safe. Low risk of getting in trouble for doing this. And it's probably worth doing that because it at least then you have some idea of what you're getting. If you get 10 of them, send one in for a sample check before you do it, because the problem with the overdoses and things is often because you don't know what you're getting, and there's other stuff in there, and
that can cause problems. Like you could have a heart attack because of whatever bad interaction you had with one of these drugs that you didn't know was in there. And if you're super paranoid, let's say that you're worried they're going to trace the handwriting on the package back to you, just print out the address and tape it on there. So
write it with your left hand.
Then what are they going to do? Yeah. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
How are they going to prove that it was? Anyway, I wouldn't worry about it. The police aren't out there trying to find random packages that have one pill in them.
They're also not very good at finding things. In fact, most discoveries they make, in my opinion, are accidental discoveries. Most busts are accidental.
Yeah, that's true.
And I actually don't think that they and because if they were good, if they were really good at investigating, they would discover that the people they work for are in on the drug game. Like that they.
You mean the Postal Service?
War, not the Postal Service, but deep down, as I know we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Like the drugs. They're guarded by the soldiers. The whole thing is inside, deep, dark inside thing. And
the old claim is the CIA has been involved in importing drugs for a long time. Now, there's no way to prove it, but that's what they say.
They're allowed to lie, and they can do anything they want. So
right, and who's going to inspect what the CIA is doing? There's nobody who inspects the inspectors, right? Who watches the watchers? There's nobody to check over their activities besides themselves. So there's that's where that investigation ends. If you want to join us here, our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. They're looking for big shippers, right? Like if they're investigating drug shipments, they're not looking for one pill. That's not something they're going to spend.
We got him. We got the Blue Dolphin. It looks like
let's put $50,000 of police resources on investigating who put the Blue Dolphin in the mail system.
Well, actually, I have seen these funny pictures where like all the police are standing around like a desk.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they have like a quarter ounce of weed on there, and they all their shotguns in their hand.
But those are like the cops that busted somebody they pulled over. That's
it's like Super Troopers,
the local crack house or something like that.
It's also like all those busts that the cops are making when all these drug users give out their drugs at Halloween, to put them in kids' candy.
More coming up. Free Talk Live.
She seems happier. Her fur is so much shinier, silkier, softer. She has really mellowed a lot.
Sheba is 105 lean pounds of shiny, smooth, happy dog for life.
The shedding has stopped. The itching has stopped.
Since 2001, we've helped more than 250,000 dogs get over their nutritional deficiency miseries.
And saved our customers bazillions in vet bills.
Everything we tried failed except the Dinovite.
Come to Dinovite for help.
DINOVITE.com.
If you want the dog to be healthy, you got to feed it something healthy.
The omega-3 fatty acids,
flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa,
the digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Dinovite is nutrition.
Dinovite for life.
Don't let your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy.
Come to Dinovite for help.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Launching into the second hour of the program, you're invited to join us here. We've been talking prostitution throughout a good chunk of the show here so far. And there's more on how the police screwed up the case down in South Florida against not just Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, but other people that they had arrested for so-called prostitution down there. We can tell you more about that. Plus, New York may be legalizing it or decriminalizing it. Johnson has a story. Actually, no, you've got a story about New York and also one about Mexico City. So we can
Mexico City, yes.
They're actually doing it in Mexico City, so we can tell you about that. Silver Dave joining us as well. Wants to talk about mind control. And, of course, your calls and thoughts are also welcome. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Let's go to the phones, to the fun. We have RJ in Minneapolis. RJ, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
LRN.FM.
And then you got to go. So the toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We go to Sarah, who's much more better behaved in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I love these bad calls because I get my turn, on the show. So,
well, we don't love them because I don't enjoy hitting the dump button, but we will hit the dump button if somebody says something that does not belong on the radio, and that person did, so they're gone. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I have something positive out of Albuquerque. I think there's such thing as a senior Olympics, and I think Albuquerque, we're going to break the record of the largest senior Olympics being held, I think, starting this week.
Boy, I am so uninterested in the Olympics generally. I can't imagine being interested in the Senior Olympics either, but, good for them. I think it's great that people are getting out there and doing stuff.
Oh, here comes Myrtle. She's ahead. She's in the lead. Oh, wait, no, she just broke her hip.
They're
I don't think
probably
she's
in better
win.
shape than I am. I mean, I'll be honest.
The reason that it's interesting is that 1,500 of the members are from Albuquerque. So
Jesus.
The reason that we can
How many people compete in this thing?
Well, I guess with walkers and canes and, broken, I have no idea.
No, I asked how many people. You said there were 1,000 members. Does that mean that they're all competing or that they're like members in the Oldster Olympics supporters group or something like that? Or like, I don't know what that means.
One thing is that 1,500 of them live here in Albuquerque.
Right, that's what I'm saying. How many people are in the normal Olympics? Like when they have the regular Olympics, how many competitors? I mean, I know they have a lot of different events, so I presume there's quite a few, but is it in the thousands? How many of these Olympic
the thing is,
are there?
I'm looking at like maybe a couple thousand are from elsewhere that are flying in, renting out hotels. So this is a revenue, money-making economic boost for Albuquerque. So the retirees are bringing in to help bring in money.
So wait, you're saying the Olympics are happening in Albuquerque, the elderly Olympics?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
The Depends sales are through the roof, folks.
Thanks for the call,
the
Sarah.
local economy boost.
Toll-free number 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Hey, Dave, incontinence isn't funny at all. What are you talking about?
I'll tell you, actually, this Senior Olympics thing, as I'm picturing them with walkers and canes, this is actually starting to appear rather entertaining to me. I feel like, and especially if it's like full contact, because, they use the cane and pushing. I just feel like this is starting to look funnier the more I picture it.
Could be.
Like the football game, it's a little slower, but there's way more injuries.
Check ESPN 7 for the schedule. So the toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. Let's get back to the prostitution story here out of Florida, the story from the Sun-Sentinel about how this cops just botched it up. They said that several massage parlors were shut down and several women, or I guess, well, it doesn't say several massage parlors, so it could be two. Several women were charged. That's not a whole lot. Several women. They did a huge investigation on multiple massage parlors, and they only busted several women. That's no more than, 5?
And think about, you said that they had cameras, they had video evidence.
Secret cameras.
We couldn't even figure out how they put these cameras in place, but I can only imagine they spent a ton of money on this.
Oh, yeah.
And they busted 3 people.
Well, they did bust 300 men across Florida. So they went after the Johns big time in this case. So,
your tax dollars hard at work, folks.
Well, something was hard at work, but
it was hard.
And the question is, how many of the cops actually went in there to get service themselves from these?
And that might be what went wrong, is that one of the cops, maybe the service, he was getting service, and then maybe they stopped giving him the free service, and then he got upset. And then they were like, well, now we're going to shut them down. But as long as...
That's the kind of petty stuff that you expect from the police. For sure.
I actually think that's very possible that, they go in and it's just like the mafia, they go in and they get their service for free.
Right.
Until someone finally says, no, we're not, you have to pay, and then they get shut down.
Officials said their efforts were aimed in part at suspected human trafficking at the massage parlors. They pointed to state health department inspections, suggesting that sex workers from Asia were living at the businesses. Well, that doesn't mean... Okay, this is what the police are constantly doing, and there's some quotes from them coming up here, but they are constantly trying to equate legitimate sex work, and what I mean by that is voluntary sex work, people whose chosen career is to provide sex to other people for money. That's what they do. Now, whether they do it legally or not is another question. In most places, it's illegal. But, in Vegas, or I guess not Vegas, but in Nevada, in parts of Nevada, it's legal. In other parts in Europe, it's legal.
And in places where it's legal, the girls get regular STD testing, and it's safe, and you know what you're getting. Versus the places where it's illegal, it's really dirty and really nasty. And so, the fact that diseases are more existent, you could thank the laws
Absolutely.
For that.
Thank the police.
And so, thank the police for making it more dangerous for you to have sex with someone who's not a prostitute, even, because it all travels and spreads to outside of that. So, every time you do anything and it's more dangerous, thank a policeman.
Yeah, exactly. Quote, obviously our concern in this investigation centers around the possibility of victims of human trafficking, the appearance of that, said Jupiter Police Chief Daniel Kerr in February, adding that customers enable such illicit businesses to, quote, flourish. State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg called human trafficking, quote, evil in our midst, unquote, adding that there is the, quote, cold reality that many prostitutes in cases like this are themselves victims, often lured into this country with promises of a better life, unquote. So, if many of the prostitutes are victims, then why aren't they going ahead and identifying that in this case? You busted several women here. Why not point out how many of these poor victim prostitutes were actually victims?
Yeah, they saved.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. If you saved these ladies from making a living, then can't we talk about how many people you saved? You rescued them?
Well, yeah, that's the claim, is they rescued them from the grip of these evil pimps who are threatening them. Because the old story, and it's true in some cases, is of somebody who's employed as, not employed, but somebody who's being forced into sex work. Somebody who is a sex slave is doing it against their will, and in a lot of cases they're being threatened. So this is the reason why the sex slave will not run away, right?
And the only reason that the sex workers who do use pimps, the only reason they even need pimps, once again, is for protection from the government, from the system.
No, the pimp isn't going to protect them from the system.
They bail them out.
That does happen.
They
yeah,
protect
sure.
Because I keep err on the side of that. If it was legal, you wouldn't need all that stuff. You wouldn't need the pimp. Everything would be safe. Everything. It's just. I just can't get over.
Well, you may still have somebody, whether it's a pimp or a madam or whoever. Somebody may be the connector, the person who finds the Johns and brings them together. The pimps also can provide some level of protection as well, from a violent John, because there can be men who may actually want to victimize the woman in these circumstances as well. So there are some other risks that the pimps can help. Of course, the pimps themselves are known for being violent in some cases, so they're not.
Yeah, I just think that if it was more open, that it would be safer.
Absolutely.
Just everything about it.
Right. The girls in Nevada, if they don't like their working conditions, they up and leave.
It's like a job. You could go to a different job.
That's right, or start your own. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. So, yeah, they didn't tout any saving of any victims here. They didn't say that they rescued any of these prostitutes from slavery. If they had, I'm sure they would have pointed that out, but they didn't. More coming up here in moments. It's Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We're talking about sex slavery, the allegations police are making, saying their prostitution investigations, that's what it's all about. It's about saving these women. It's about helping them, getting them out of their sex slavery that they've been forced into. But yet, when they, are parading around the numbers, the statistics about the recent 300 men that were arrested in association with these massage parlor investigations that they did in South Florida, they also are touting that they have arrested several women, but they didn't say they saved them. They didn't say these women were victims. They didn't find a single one of them, because if they did, they'd be showing her off, or the very least claiming that they found her.
And the question was brought up: well, how do you know if a person was like sex trafficked or whatever, sex trafficking? They would be able to say this person doesn't have their papers, their documents to be an American naturalized whatever person. So I feel like they could identify that.
Maybe.
They could have quantifiable number. If they actually like you said, if they actually, quote, saved anybody, there's a way that they could identify that they found,
Well, the woman could claim it. She could say, hey, I'm a victim here.
That's a good point, too, yeah. But it doesn't sound like that happened.
And how many times do you think that's happened where the policeman yeah, right, lady, and then they just throw the book at her?
So what you're saying is if they found an actual victim of this, that they would then profit from using her.
Yes, of course they would. Yeah. So
I'm just saying that they would basically be prostituting her.
In a way. Yeah, for their benefit, for sure. So the toll-free number, if you want to join the discussion, 855-450-FREE. Maybe you're against the legalization or decriminalization. We're going to find out what they're doing in Mexico City coming up here in moments, where they're actually moving forward with some level of decrim. Johnson's got that story. But you can join us at 855-450-FREE. And if you're trying to reach the cryptocurrency market, or maybe you want to spread mass awareness of your crypto technology, you need a communications company that specializes in the field. You don't just want to use your typical PR firm. Leveraging 35-plus different brands, part of the Investor Brand Network, and more than 5,000 downstream distribution partners, Cryptocurrency Wire combines the power of specialization with mass market reach. With their help, you can start connecting with crypto-friendly journalists and more than 1.6 million followers. Their commitment is to get the most eyes possible on your big news while it's fresh. Domestic or international, they can reach 56 different countries and provide translation services as well. If your company is an important, relevant newsmaker, you need someone that specializes in the field to get your message heard. CryptocurrencyWire.com. And here at Free Talk Live, we've used their services. CryptocurrencyWire.com. So once again, the police claiming this is all about helping the women, even though they don't actually have any proof that they helped any women except helping them into a jail cell. But State Attorney Dave Aronberg's office walked back their claims, telling Kraft's judge that there was no evidence of human trafficking. So they actually admitted under oath in court that they didn't find anything. After spending however much money and time and police manpower busting what is essentially a couple of Jack Shacks in South Florida. Officials say it was just misdemeanor solicitation of prostitution charges for the men and felonies of making money from prostitution for the women. Boy, they're really helping these ladies, helping them get a felony record on their rap sheet.
That'll help them get other jobs.
Yeah, right? Keep them out of the illegal market where they can make a bunch of money, regardless of their legal status.
That's a good point. I mean, instead of condemning these ladies with such a charge, you'd think that if they really cared about helping people, they would help them assimilate into a job that isn't in sex work.
Right.
But by giving them that felony, like you just pointed out, Johnson, that I think it's a really great point. Once they get a felony for sex trafficking, now they're permanently going to have to do this.
Any
now
felony period.
No escape.
Yeah, any felony period. It gets way harder to get any kind of job anywhere. Kraft's lawyers or officials said they had hoped the sex workers would cooperate with investigators so they could bring more serious charges. But that didn't happen. Kraft's lawyers...
Let's cooperate with the people that might give us a felony.
Right. Kraft's lawyers ripped the authorities for misleading a judge into approving the sneak and peek warrant by providing a false narrative of human trafficking. They also accused officials of attempting to, quote, deceive the public and justify law enforcement's overreach with their clandestine video surveillance. After judges approved the sneak and peek warrants, police used tactical ruses. Here you go, Dave. Here's how they did it. It's what we were wondering about earlier. So they could install the cameras in the massage rooms and the lobby. The cops said they needed to investigate a suspicious package, creating a bomb scare. They scared these women. They scared these businesses into thinking somebody had called in a bomb threat against their business. Can you imagine that? That is scary. And coming from the police, you'll believe it.
They lied.
Yeah, they lied.
They lied, and they said, that's terrible.
Yep, so they sent the bomb squad in with cameras while the place was evacuated, and that's when they did the dirty deed of planting the cameras in the rooms. Once the cameras were rolling at Orchids of Asia, Robert Kraft arrived at 4:44 in the afternoon on January 19th at about 11 a.m. on January 20th, so he actually went there more than once. Prosecutors described the encounters in graphic detail, noting how Kraft paid in cash, then got completely naked for sex acts. The videotaping at the business lasted for 5 days, leading to the charges against Kraft and 24 other men. Prosecutors argued that Kraft lacked a, quote, legitimate claim to an expectation of privacy, and even less so because he was present on both occasions to conduct criminal business transactions, unquote. But Kraft challenged the warrant, which had permitted the use of secret cameras as unlawful. Palm Beach County Judge Leonard Hunser agreed that planting cameras was necessary to infiltrate crime. He wrote, quote, the unique circumstances of massage room creates the need for an unusually intrusive law enforcement technique. So he's backing the police.
This is what happens, by the way, when the law enforcement and the prosecutors themselves secretly visit the sex workers on the side. They say, okay, I'm going to need you to role play. I'm going to need you to role play that I have a suspicious package.
Hanser concluded the judge also agreed with prosecutors the police weren't obligated to use other common tactics for the prostitution sweeps, such as using undercover officers. But Hunser concluded the warrant still broke federal law because police didn't do enough to focus only on crimes and to minimize the camera's intrusiveness. At all of the spas with the secret cameras, police wound up recording people receiving lawful services. So apparently not everybody going to these places were conducting prostitution, even though the focus was only supposed to be on men paying for sex acts. Failing to be vigilant and not record women, quote, is a serious flaw in the search warrant, especially considering the search warrant did not allege that women were seeking illegal contact. So apparently women were actually receiving massages at these parlors. He called it unacceptable that, quote, some totally innocent women and men had their entire lawful time spent in a massage room fully recorded. Unquote.
Ooh. Imagine if you were a customer at this place and you just went there to get a massage. And they videotaped you.
Yeah, and the cops are watching you.
The police watched you. I think that's not only is that rude, they lied to get in there. They said a bomb threat. They lied about that. They scared people terrorism.
And they're probably getting naked, by the way, right? Even though it's a legitimate massage, they're probably stripping down.
That's right, you do. And I've gone to a massage place. I didn't get like a happy ending or anything. I just you take off your clothes and you get under the blanket thing.
Right, a towel.
If
or
I
whatever.
found out that they videotaped me, I would be very upset because I expected that I was privacy.
That's right. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. More on the illegality behind these investigations. More on the way. It's Free Talk Live.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite.
Dynavite for life.
Pick up 2 tubes of Doggo Suds.
Get the 3rd tube free.
Peppermint, tea tree, lavender, Doggo Sud shampoo.
Made with all-natural coconut, jojoba, aloe. Great for healthy skin and soft, shiny coats.
But no itchy, harsh chemicals.
Lather up, rinse away.
Try Doggo Suds. Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live. You dial toll free. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Johnson.
Silver Dave.
So we're talking about prostitution, specifically the details of how the cops really screwed up the case down, or the multiple cases, because they arrested hundreds of men and several women in the prostitution cases down in South Florida earlier this year that involved Robert Kraft, who's the billionaire owner of the New England Patriots. So we'll tell you more about that because there's more dirty, seedy details as far as how the police were behaving in these cases. We already found out that they basically illegally planted cameras in these locations using subterfuge to claim that there was a bomb threat against the business. Then they, evacuated it, and then they went in and hid the cameras. And even though a judge didn't rule against that aspect of it, he did rule against it because they ended up recording people doing entirely normal massage things.
This is really disturbing to me in particular because I'm thinking about, first, all these people that went to this massage parlor to just get regular massages, they were recorded unknowingly so. They were violated. And then that also makes me think about even more, how far does this go? Does this mean that they can install cameras in the bathroom because they think that there might be prostitution going on in the bathroom at Walmart, so that they put cameras in there?
In a stall?
In the stall. Yeah, like how far can they go?
Good question.
And this is just like, think about how many people were violated by the police. I mean, if they caught hundreds of people, that makes me feel like thousands
were recorded.
Thousands of people were recorded that didn't do anything wrong, that were violated. Like, that's just horrible.
Yep. That's a great point.
I think that's really bad. And that, to me, like, those police should be arrested.
Well, it's probably not going to happen, but
probably not going to happen.
There is a lawsuit, okay, and they actually touch on that coming up here against the police, but it's a civil suit.
They should personally be sued.
Yeah, if only you could. You can't. Unfortunately, they have what they call like sovereign immunity or whatever. There's these qualified immunity. There's these different types of legal protections that bureaucrats have that you and I don't have. And so simply because they're the police, and in a lot of cases, all they have to do is say that, well, we thought it was legal what we were doing, and then they just are not held responsible for anything that they do. Now, look, whether you're operating a massage parlor or some other kind of business, you can accept cryptocurrency easily by going to helpmetakebitcoin.com. The folks over at AnyPay.global have made it super easy to accept things like Bitcoin and Dash, Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, and several other cryptocurrencies at your point of sale. Or maybe you just want to have an app on your phone to make it easy to just accept crypto. Maybe you don't want to pull out your wallet and show somebody your cryptocurrency balance. You just want to be able to receive crypto from somebody. AnyPay makes it super easy. Go to helpmetakebitcoin.com. The steps are fast. If you're new to cryptocurrency and you're intimidated by this, you'll be surprised at how simple it is. Just go through the steps. helpmetakebitcoin.com. Literally within moments, you're going to be set up to take multiple cryptocurrencies into your cryptocurrency wallet. Don't have a wallet yet? Don't worry. That's the first step over at helpmetakebitcoin.com. As we continue here, after the Kraft headlines Kraft made headlines around the world.
I just want to mention something you were saying about the police. Don't forget that there's a statistic out there, and this is from a CNN article, that between 2005 and 2013, police were arrested for 636 counts of forcible fondling.
Oh my!
405 counts of forcible rape.
Now this is against the people they've taken from various different crimes.
Yeah, this is this is over the course of what is that? 2005 to 2013 would be 8 years.
And this is in the United States wide? Okay.
Yeah, United States wide. And that's just arrests. So who knows how many times they've gotten away with it, right?
Way more.
Where somebody was intimidated and didn't say anything to anybody.
And I would imagine that's the iceberg. I call it the iceberg concept.
Yep.
Where the part you see above the water is much smaller.
Yeah.
So like the ones that get caught. It's scary.
Yeah. And also, you know who they're doing it to, right? Like young women. Remember there was the story, I don't know if you guys were aware of this.
I didn't even get to 219 counts of forcible sodomy. Was
My
one of
God.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, thousands of instances, an average of around 45 a year or something like that.
They bust some girl for underage drinking like they would do. There was a police chief in New Hampshire who got busted for this. Finally, after, again, how many times he did it, we have no idea. He brought a girl, young, college-age girl, brought her in for whatever stupid violation of, open container, or, it was nothing that she did. And then he brings her down into the police basement and demands that she strip for him as he takes pictures. That's what he did. And, that's light compared to what you're talking about, Johnson, actual, sexual rape or whatever. In this case, It was just naked photographs. But still, it gives you some idea of what these people think they can get away with, and in many cases, absolutely do get away with.
So, I guess, and I guess that there's a secret list a lot of these police departments actually keep of their own misdoings or whatever, like the officers who are problems.
Okay.
And so there's in New Hampshire, I guess there's a a petition or whatever to release that list.
Yeah, I think they call it the Lori list here.
Yeah.
Yep. I've heard of it.
And that's a great point, because imagine if you were like the police chief and you had a bunch of officers working under you that got involved in things that were, very dirty. You probably didn't want to bust them because it makes you look bad as a leader.
It would go public too, right?
And then here's this. So they kind of have to cover it up and just kind of keep it in-house. So you can imagine that the guys that are doing the investigation, they don't like to bust each other because it makes them look bad.
Right.
So it just makes you wonder how much more, and it might get you killed, how much more do these guys do that we don't know about? And I bet it's a lot.
Yep, I bet you're right about that. After the Kraft case made headlines, some of the innocent people, who, again, the people who were just in the massage parlor for an actual real massage, sued the Jupiter police and the state attorney over the videos. That case is still pending. Hanser signed an order temporarily restricting prosecutors, this is a judge, from releasing to the public the videotapes featuring Kraft over the objection of media outlets, including Sun, Florida Sentinel. Media lawyers argue the public has a right to see the evidence in a pending criminal case. Kraft's lawyers now want to have them permanently sealed. Another controversial aspect of the case is how Jupiter police officers pulled over the cars of the people who had just left the spa. Prosecutors explained that the cops weren't going after actual traffic violations. It was just a legal way to obtain the identities of people who were videotaped committing crimes. Quote, no traffic violation need occur, they wrote, adding the officers had no clue about Kraft's identity until they pulled over his chauffeur-driven Bentley and looked at his Massachusetts driver's license. Kraft also made small talk and flashed his Super Bowl ring. But Kraft's legal team, led by Alex Spiro and others, argued there had to be a true traffic violation to justify the stop. They also said that because the videos were illegal, the identification of Kraft also had to be thrown out, and the judge agreed on that point.
We got the big macaroni. We got him.
The New York lawyer expert who was looking at the case said, so these car stops they made based on the video surveillance, they're improper, certainly not admissible. It's fruit of the poisonous tree. And that's a legal concept that says that if the police did something illegal to gather evidence, everything from that illegal gathering is thrown out. It's the fruit of the poisonous tree. They failed. They did something illegal. They broke their own rules. They got caught doing it. So even if you caught this person red-handed, or in this case with something in their hands or whatever, it's got to be thrown out. Even if they're on video, even if they obviously committed a crime, it has to be thrown out because the police broke the law in order to get it. Judges in Palm Beach, Martin, and Indian River counties declared rulings this month, the warrants were illegal, and none of the sex video evidence can be used to prosecute Kraft or any of the other men caught in the bust. That means the misdemeanor prosecutions won't proceed unless an appeals court overturns the trial judge's rulings. Toll-free numbers, if you want to join us here, is 855-450-FREE. That's pretty much, there's a little more to the story, but that's pretty much it as far as the illegality of how the police were behaving in this case. We got some good news about prostitution in Mexico City, maybe some out of New York as well. Johnson's got that story coming up, and you can join us on Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You dial in toll-free if you want to join us here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, we have been focusing on the issue of prostitution here tonight, starting out with a story about how the government screwed up a major case out of South Florida where they arrested hundreds of Johns and arrested a handful of prostitutes as well in an undercover investigation that was based on some pretty fraudulent behavior on the part of the police. So, illegally, I would say illegally planting the cameras in the massage parlors using lies and scaring the massage parlor employees and owners into thinking a bomb threat had been issued against their business, then sneaking after that point or going in with their bomb, squad, and then having the bomb squad actually, or whoever it was, maybe it wasn't the bomb squad, maybe it was just some uniformed cops, but having their men go in and then plant cameras in the massage parlor's rooms, and then ultimately recording an uncounted number. We do not know how many innocent people were recorded, but apparently if hundreds, as you pointed out, Silver Dave, if they've made hundreds of arrests over, all this time, and this was in more than one massage parlor, then that means there were way more people who were just getting regular massages, many of whom are now suing the police and the prosecutor's office over these planted hidden cameras. I mean, it is an absolute mess. Then lying to and falsely pulling people over after they left the massage parlor.
And the thing is that at this massage parlor, it is standard to take off your clothes.
Right.
So they installed secret video. They lied. First of all, I think lying is wrong. I think lying is not morally right.
But they can do it legally.
But they can legally lie, which already I feel like when the people who supposedly are supposed to force morals upon people are immoral themselves. And
everything else they do is
everything they
awful.
do is wrong. But then they're putting they lied to put secret cameras in a place where people knowingly undress, even people who are not doing anything wrong. This actually makes me think, where else are the cameras? When you go to the bathroom at Walmart, are there cameras in there? If they're suspicious that something is happening at Walmart, are they going to put cameras in there? When you go to the bathroom...
Because sometimes people have sex in bathrooms, right? They have sex
Sure. So does that mean that if the police suspect that there's a Walmart employee somewhere that's like selling a sex service there, that means they're going to install cameras?
It's crazy. It's creepy.
And that's really creepy because I feel like there's obviously a lot more than we know about. There's always more that we
plus,
don't
know that the cops are sort of notorious for being horn dogs themselves, a lot of them, and, obsessed with sex. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were very interested in the female clients that were coming into these massage parlors, because that's what the story here pointed out, was that they recorded women who were the massage receivers coming in and receiving massages, obviously stripping down in the same way that we've read stories about perverted TSA agents, operating the whatever technology that shows you with your clothes off. Remember, there was a story about that years ago. So these sorts of roles attract the perverted types when they know that they're going to have the opportunity to look at people naked that no one else would be able to see except for their husband or, girlfriend or whatever. That's a very powerful kind of feeling, right?
And they like control and they're freaks.
Right.
Great combination. Yeah. There you go.
So, Johnson, there's some good news that you had to share tonight, it sounds like, coming out of Mexico City.
That's right.
Surrounding prostitution. Where's the story coming from?
So this story is coming from activistpost.com.
All right.
And it says that Mexico City is to decriminalize sex work to combat human trafficking.
Oh, that's the opposite of what the police in the United States say.
Yeah.
They say we need to keep it illegal to combat human trafficking.
Right. Well, when are the United States police actually correct? Rarely.
A broken clock is right. Even a broken clock's right twice a day.
Not on this issue.
Yeah.
On Friday, lawmakers in Mexico City gave the green light to decriminalizing sex work in the capital city. Officials are hopeful that the change will help curb a sex trafficking epidemic to which thousands of Mexican women and children have become victim.
Wow.
The UN estimated that there were 236,930 sex workers in Mexico in 2016 alone.
I like how they get it down to the 900.
I know, they're like
932.5.
We estimated with a
microscope,
like a clicker, and having people go through
probably because the police slept with that many of them. That's
cattle
how they were
fences.
able to count it.
We literally counted them. Lawmakers voted 38-0 in favor of a bill that will remove one line from a civic cultural law indicating sex workers and their clients can be fined or arrested if neighbors file a complaint. 8 members of Congress abstained.
Wait, this is just to clarify. I might have been a little distracted. This is post the decriminalization?
Yeah. So lawmakers voted 38-0 in favor of a bill that will remove one line from civic culture law indicating workers and their clients can be fined or arrested if neighbors file a complaint.
Okay, so
and
that's
they're
what's
going to remove
removed.
that line.
Okay,
so they're no longer going to be able to be fined or arrested, and the neighbors can complain all they want.
Huh.
Essentially, is what's going to happen because that that line will be removed. 8 members abstained, so it was 38-0. While sex work is legal in Mexico, each of the country's 31 different states have different and occasionally unclear laws and policies.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the disconnect is in regulation leaves space for exploitation and trafficking. According to the U.S. State Department, Mexican women and children are most at risk in a country that is a source, transit hub, and destination for both adults and children forced into various forms of human trafficking, including sex trafficking and forced labor. Temastocles Villanueva, a representative with the Morena Party, said, "It's a first step that has to lead to regulation of sex work, to fight human trafficking and strengthen the rights of sex workers. Exercising sexuality in our country is still a taboo topic that few of us dare to talk about."
A lot of Catholics, right, down in Mexico. It's a very popular religion down there, and so that's probably part of the explanation as to why it is so taboo.
Ironically, there are a lot of whores featured in the Catholic, Catholicism, right?
Is that right? I don't know.
Whore of Babylon.
Okay.
Like Jesus, hung out with prostitutes. These are all things that are
right.
sort of commonly known.
No, Jesus hung out with the prostitutes. He did not arrest the prostitutes.
Yeah.
He did not molest the prostitutes. He did not, kidnap and abuse them. He tried to convert them or whatever, tried to be kind.
Accept them for what they were doing.
Right.
Yeah. So, exercising, he said, I guess he goes on, Villanueva added, exercising sexuality in our country is still a taboo topic that few of us dare to talk about. According to The Guardian, Mexico is listed as a Tier 2 nation in the U.S.'s Trafficking in Persons report, meaning it does not meet the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking, but it is making significant efforts to do so. While the modification to the existing law is a welcome change to those in the know, not everyone thinks it goes quite far enough.
I would agree.
Elvira Madrid, founder of Brigada Calajera, a sex workers' rights group, said that sex workers need a legal framework that offers them protection. Eduardo Santillan, a Mexico City congressman who is also with the Morena Party, said that strengthening anti-trafficking public policy should come next. We think that the big challenge of this Congress will be making both of these fundamental principles compatible. This is a very weirdly structured sentence.
It could be bad translation.
Yeah. Still others are concerned that the decriminalization of sex work will only serve to provide cover for human traffickers. Supporters of decriminalization, however, maintain that criminalizing the career sends it deeper underground, thus sending the problems underground as well.
Right.
Criminalization, it's kind of obvious. Criminalization also opens the doors for abuse by organized crime and police.
Right.
The bill approved on Friday came after a previous version was criticized by both sex worker and human rights groups.
Well, it's a little bit of progress. And I don't know if you've got more to the story.
That's it for this particular story.
Yeah, it's a little bit of progress, and unfortunately that's all we can expect from governments is if they're going to move in a direction, it will be a glacially pace. I mean, it is going to be brutally slow. People will still end up getting arrested because they said that they're removing the sentence about somebody can complain and that will cause an investigation.
Well, there's no fine or arrest anymore.
Oh, really?
Essentially, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought they were only striking the investigation line.
Before, they could only be arrested or fined if someone complained, which, of course,
meaning
we have a complaint. It's anonymous.
Right.
That's how that works, right?
I see what you're saying. So you're saying even though there may not be a complaint, they still won't be able to conduct an investigation independently. They're not going to be able to do a sting operation.
No amount of complaining now will allow them to arrest or fine anybody, essentially.
All right.
Except that the police won't actually know that change to the law. They won't know anyway, so they'll still arrest you.
That happens.
They'll have to just, the court sorted out.
Right.
I don't know if in Mexico is anything like the United States where wrongful arrest can cost police departments
I don't know
thousands and thousands of dollars.
It rarely costs them anything here when they do it. More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. Our 3net Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. Local.bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, inviting you, if you want to join us here, you may. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE here on the radio waves with me, Ian.
And Johnson.
Silver Dave.
Coming up, Silver Dave wants to talk about mind control. We've been talking about prostitution throughout most of the show. Looks like Mexico City is decriminalizing prostitution. It's actually... Was it unanimous, Johnson, the vote by the city council?
38-0 with 8 abstaining.
Wow. It's pretty much unanimous of those who voted. Very, very big news there. And, of course, you're welcome to share your thoughts. As we learned, prostitution is not illegal federally in Mexico, but each state does, and there's several of them, a bunch of them, does have their own sort of patchwork of rules. So this only is Mexico City, but it's a good starting point. And the more that we can see prostitution decriminalized, the more evidence we're going to have of the truth, which is that if it's criminal, it's driven underground, which means that there's more likely to be sex trafficking victims involved. Whereas if it is legal or at least decriminalized, it's more likely that more voluntary participants are involved. But even though it's illegal, like here in New Hampshire, it's illegal to conduct prostitution as a John or a prostitute. However, when they've had the hearings on decriminalization here, there are some sex workers who will come out, not from New Hampshire, that come from like Rhode Island or other states, sort of like sex worker spokespeople for the various different organizations that represent sex workers. People, ladies who are usually like retired or whatever, they're not in it anymore, but they'll come out and they'll say all these claims the police are making about sex trafficking, it's bunk. That's not to say it's impossible that somebody is out there being sex trafficked. Obviously, it does happen. But of the people that they've worked with, of the the prostitutes they see in the streets, of the prostitutes that they know, they're there voluntarily. The supermajority of them are there because they want to do that work for whatever reason. Now, maybe they're there because they're drug addicted and this is a way for them to, their pimps give them drugs or whatever, but that's still a voluntary choice. That's not sex trafficking.
Right.
Sex trafficking is when you are enslaved by somebody and you are told that if you leave, either something bad will happen to you or something bad will happen to your family. That's usually from the stories we've read over the years about this topic. That's why, because you would ask yourself, well, why doesn't the girl just run away?
Right.
Well, the reason why is because they're told, we're going to kill your sister. We know where your little sister lives. We know where your mother lives. We know where your family lives. We're going there. If you run, you might get away from us, but your family won't get away from us. And whether it's true or not, it's enough to scare somebody into staying right where they are because they don't want their family to get harmed because of them trying to escape from the sex traffickers.
Right.
So, and legalization or decriminalization means that more people can perform these acts without fear of arrest. And that means more people will be able to, bring their services to that marketplace, which is a marketplace that is never going away. There's always going to be a demand for sexual services on, wherever.
It's the oldest profession, right?
Wherever on the planet that you happen to be. So, Johnson, you had other related news on this as well, out of New York City.
That's right.
Or is it New York State?
I believe it's New York State, technically.
All right.
Let me see. Hold on. Sorry. That one was, I'm not.
No worries. I know there was actually a New York Times article about this that I saw that I put in my show prep recently. I don't know if it was particularly short. It looked like it was actually really in-depth, getting into the story. Plus, on the way, Silver Dave wants to talk about mind control, so I definitely want to get into that. You want to join us? The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And we have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. The more that you found, did you find it?
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
Did you want to share some from that?
Sure, yeah. So this one is about the fact that U.S. states, and it's funny enough, coming from the Independent.
Oh, okay.
So,
in the UK.
Yeah, the UK Independent. U.S. states consider decriminalizing prostitution. Marijuana has gone mainstream. Casino gambling is everywhere. And
we even read a story this week about medicinal mushrooms in Denver, actually recreational mushrooms.
Yeah.
Denver voters voted to lower the police priorities to near zero as far as enforcing that. And now what city was it in California? There was Oakland, California, doing the same thing, not just to mushrooms, but to all entheogenic plant substances. Yep. So peyote, for instance, lowest police priority. So we're starting to see some cracks in the war on drugs.
But the thing is, they're letting certain drugs get through, or they're legalizing the ones that don't have highly addictive qualities. Like
that's
the
true.
Heroin and the cocaine, the powers that be, they want to control those ones.
Oh yeah, well they still want to control
them. The most money, but like mushrooms, you can't do mushrooms every day. So they're like, fine.
Well, there are some people who actually do microdosing.
Okay, so maybe not, but it's not. But it doesn't.
It's not addictive.
It doesn't make those big profits. So they're like. It's really like they're appeasing the masses. Well, we'll give you a little bit of freedom, but we still own you.
Oh, well, even when they legalize it, Dave, they still own it because they still control it. They have all the regulations around it. Then they're taxing it and making billions off of taxes.
That's a good point.
So this article goes on to continue and says, and it's also mentioned sports wagering and gambling. And then they say,
there's been decrim on that too. You're right.
Could prostitution be next? Lawmakers across the country are beginning to reconsider how to handle prostitution as calls for decriminalization are slowly gaining momentum. And it says decriminalization bills have been introduced in Maine and Massachusetts. A similar bill is expected to be introduced to the City Council in Washington, D.C. in June, and lawmakers in Rhode Island held hearings in April on a proposal to study the impact of decriminalizing prostitution.
I swear, if New Hampshire is again the last state in New England to decriminalize prostitution, it'll be so frustrating.
Yeah. New York may be next. Democratic lawmakers are about to propose a comprehensive decriminalization bill that would eliminate penalties for both women and men engaged in prostitution, as well as the Johns whom they service.
That's great news. And by the way, like, I've never been interested in hiring a prostitute. I'm not, that's just not something I want to do. I'm not going to get all excited because I want to do it and I just haven't because it's illegal. I mean, anything you want to do, most people are going to do it. Whether or not it's legal is, not really a factor for most people. But I celebrate this because I know it's good for the people in that business. I know it's going to, as you pointed out earlier, Dave, it's going to lower the incidence of sexually transmitted diseases spreading around. That's good for everybody when that happens. It's going to lower the incidence of violent crime of these women and Johns who suffer violence within the black market trade.
And a prison. There'll be less people going to prison that taxpayers would pay for in sort of a way.
Yep, that's true as well. And the police can focus on actual real crimes with victims.
They won't, but
they could in theory.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the police are really against all this kind of stuff, is because there's going to be a lot less need for police.
Well,
because violent
violent
crimes and theft and property crimes, which they do very little about right now, so they're already kind of not needed for these crimes that are real crimes that people are actually don't want to happen and want that they're mostly ineffectual at dealing with, right? Because they can't find the murderers, they can't find the thieves in a lot of instances.
In a lot of cases, they can't.
People just get away with these crimes, right? The instances of actually, like, if you commit a real crime, your chances of getting away with it are actually, unfortunately, pretty good.
Right, and it's a lot easier to find a prostitute because they're standing out there on the street, or they've got advertisements up on whatever local.
You could look on the officer's speed dial on his phone.
So like these cops, as they become less necessary because they're not inventing crimes that they can prosecute and find people for, right? What's going to happen is that there's going to be less need, and these cops will lose their jobs, right? And so it's not. That's why they want all this stuff to be illegal.
You think they're scared?
Yeah, they're very scared, and they have probably a good reason to be, unless they, want to work in a real job and go get something in private security or something like that.
We got more on the way here about the trend towards decriminalization. Hopefully, this will be a trend that continues and spreads, and you can share your thoughts with us. 855-450-FREE, that's the toll-free number here. That's 855-450-3733. Maybe you're against the legalization or decriminalization of prostitution, and you want to tell us why. We would love to have you on with us. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You dial in toll-free here to bring up what you want. Our number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Hey, if you're an individual who rejects the initiation of force and agrees to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle, you qualify to use liberty.menu. If you don't agree with freedom and liberty, then, you should probably not go to liberty.menu. But if you love liberty, then you're going to love liberty.menu because it's a great business directory for people who care about freedom. If you want people to know within the liberty community that you have a business so they might become your customers, then get over to liberty.menu and you can add yourself to their listings. There's also listings for digital content creators as well as events. So you can put whatever it is that you do up there, and then other people will find it. Maybe you'll get some new customers out of it. Liberty.menu, it's free to use, so why not be there? That's liberty.menu. There's also a bit of a social networking aspect to it. You can rate and review the listings that are there. Liberty.menu. Use code FTL. You get a special Free Talk Live listener badge as a result. It's Ian Johnson and Silver Dave in the studio here tonight. Johnson, you've given us kind of a rundown of some of the changes that are afoot, some of the proposals that have been made in places like Maine, Massachusetts. There have been proposals. Yeah, there have been proposals in New Hampshire, but there aren't any, I don't think, this year. There were previously.
Right.
Unfortunately, they did not pass, but they weren't exactly like piled on against. I remember the decrim proposal here, it got like 150 votes in favor of it, and that was its first time out. So, like, as far as a starting point is concerned, remember, New Hampshire has 400 state reps, so that's not quite half. Right. But it's not a small number of positive, votes from the state house.
It's horrible. My immediate thought is, I wonder how many of the Free Stater reps are the ones who were like, we can't have this.
I hope they would have voted for it, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Anyway.
But yeah, New York State was another one that they mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah. So what else do you want to share from that?
So it goes on here to say, this is about the oldest profession and understanding that we haven't been able to deter it or end it in millennia, said Senator Jessica Ramos, one of the plan's backers. So I think it's time to confront reality. New York legislation appeared unlikely to pass in the coming months, but the idea of decriminalization has already amassed a growing coterie of prominent supporters, suggesting that it might continue to gain traction.
The more you propose the thing, the more traction it will likely gain, because it has taken, here in New Hampshire, the state government is very slow to change. It's very conservative in that way. Even though it's, Democrats mostly right now in New Hampshire state representatives, it's still super slow to try to change things around here. And that's true of every issue. But with something like marijuana decriminalization, it literally took more than a decade of constant testimony in front of these oldsters, these gray hairs that are running the state house.
What is marijuana?
Right. Some of them used it back in their day, too. But regardless, there's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of it's coming from the police. And the people who are running state governments, they believe what the police say. So when the cops come in front of a panel of state representatives and they lie to them and claim that this is all about stopping sex trafficking, when it's not about that in barely any way, they're just arresting people for selling sex voluntarily. But when they come in front of them and lie to them, when they lie to them about marijuana, when they lie to them about why the war on drugs goes on, they still believe the police, even though the opposition, the people who want to decriminalize, have a bevy of evidence in their favor, even though there's, hard studies about these issues that prove our side of things. It's hard to argue against the cops just because, they got a badge on. They must be telling the truth. Oh, sorry, Dave. Say that again.
We know these guys lie because they admitted they lied to put the cameras in these places. They lie about things, and then people believe them, which is really funny to me. If you believe someone who lies.
Oh, no, only the ones that got caught lying are the liars. The rest of them are completely honest.
So it says here, the debate is unquestionably polarizing in many circles, even among advocates for sex-trafficked and abused women who fear creating a legal path for prostitution will not eliminate, but rather actually encourage underground sex trafficking. They say, anyway.
Really? Where's all these sex trafficking in Nevada?
Right. Yeah. And in Nevada, it's even only a tiny little, one little town, right? I mean, it's not all of Nevada where sex trafficking,
where prostitution
is legal.
No. It's more than one place. Each, I don't know if it's the counties or the cities, but there's certain municipalities get to decide what they do there. But there's a patchwork, I think, from what I understand.
Well, it says here, decriminalization is already...
I'm sorry, Johnson. I think the rule is if you have legal gambling, you can't have legal prostitution. I think that's the rule.
All right.
I could be wrong on that. Huh. If you're in Nevada and you want to correct us on this, the toll-free number is 855-450.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it says here, decriminalization is already facing intense pushback in state capitals from opponents who call the measures naive and potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
Ah! Fear-mongering.
Yeah, except none of those opponents are actually sex workers who work in the business.
Yeah. Still, the issue has crept into the Democratic Party's nascent presidential campaign.
Really?
In late February, Kamala Harris became the first candidate to endorse some manner of decriminalization, an idea also floated by another contender, former governor of Colorado, John Hickenlooper. When you're talking about consenting adults, I think that, yes, we should really consider that we can't criminalize consensual behavior as long as no one is being harmed.
Really?
Said Mrs. Harris, or Ms. Harris.
Is this the military chick?
With the Roof.
No, that's a different one, right?
No, Miss Harris is pretty awful.
That's the cop. Is she the cop? I'm sorry, I forget who all these people are. There's so many of them.
I know Kamala Harris is I believe she's in Senate, and she's a politician.
I know she's a politician that much. But.
Like a career politician. Supporters of decriminalization see their efforts as part of a larger, decades-long liberalization of American mores.
Let me interrupt you again. Reason.com's front page story, Kamala Harris is a cop who wants to be president. So how interesting to actually have a cop say, can you read that quote again? Because it's actually surprisingly good.
When you're talking about, well, and it also might be one of these things like now that she's running for president, it's just like George Bush, right? Let me say the biggest lie I can possibly tell that will get me elected because I'm the most giant liar now.
Right.
In order to be president, I have to say the exact opposite of what I believe because that's what's going to get you elected,
and
right?
that's what she was trying to do as
like
cop.
George Bush, it's like, I'm going to promote freedom, no new taxes. Like, what else can we say? Like,
no nation building. Remember that
you
one?
can keep your health care plan. You can take that to the bank, right? Like, what's the biggest lie that you can tell? And that's what they're going to run on to win for president.
Still,
right?
read it again, though. It was pretty good.
While you're talking about consenting adults, I think that, yes, we should really consider that we can't criminalize consensual behavior as long as no one is being harmed. So be prepared, if she gets into office, for her to criminalize all of the consensual behavior. Any consensual behavior that you can think of that might have a hint of criminalness to it, she'll make it illegal. I'm pretty sure.
Everything you say is suspect.
Yeah.
And backwards.
If you're a politician,
If you're a
for
politician.
Sure.
So she says, expect the opposite.
Yeah. So they say they also frame the issue as an act of harm reduction for prostitutes, as a tacit admission that modern law enforcement and age-old moral indignation has done little to stem the practice.
No doubt.
We've learned that this lesson many times with the prohibition of alcohol or criminalization of abortion or even the criminalization of marijuana.
Is this another quote from Harris?
This is a quote from...
We'll find out. Stand by.
Okay.
It sounds like another golden quote here. This is a good thing. Some people are saying some nice things here. 855-450 free. That's the toll-free number. You can bring up what you want here on Free Talk Live.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at MyMagicMud.com. FTL20, MyMagicMud.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You're invited here to join us. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. Can politicians change their spots? Can they have, belief systems that they have, put into place over many years and then all of a sudden do a reversal and actually be plausible?
I don't know. When you say anything about politicians changing their spots, the first kind of spots I think of are liver spots.
Because they're heavy drinkers?
Or just old.
I gotcha. Does that come from heavy drinking? Or is that just an old thing?
I think you can contribute to it if you're a heavy drinker.
So Ian Johnson and Silver Dave here in the studio tonight. By the way, if you want to help support what we do on Free Talk Live, join the AMP program like Gene the Christian Anarchist. He's one of our longest-running amplifiers. He's a silver amplifier, which means he gives $5 a month to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote, and is a way for you to get behind what we do here and help us get on more radio stations to bring more people to the ideas of freedom on the radio waves. We've got over 200 stations that carry our show at various times throughout the week. Right now, we could have 300. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of effort. It's a matter of marketing the show, and that's what the AMP program allows us to do more effectively, and you'll get some cool perks also for helping us out. So please go to amp.freetalklive.com. Just takes a moment to get signed up. It makes a big difference for us when you do it. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com. So Johnson, you're sharing with us a story about was it prostitution? Prostitution reform. Yeah. But the quotes they're sharing from this Kamala Harris, or at least one of the quotes from Kamala Harris, sounded really good. She's talking about how, hey, if there's no victim, consensual activity between adults should be legal. Right. Is basically what she said. Well,
I'm sure there's 1,000,001 cases you could throw at her immediately to get her to recant that quote.
Well, during her 28-year tenure as a county prosecutor, this according to Reason.com, this is their cover story. I happen to know that because somebody apparently subscribed us to Reason. The Reason magazine's been coming here for the last couple months. Yeah. It was on the table over there, but I don't know if it still is. Anyway, that's how I saw this story, and it says here that during her 28-year tenure as a county prosecutor, I don't really need to go any further. I mean, that's bad enough news that she was a prosecutor for 28 years, because usually those people are constantly prosecuting cases like prostitutes and drug dealers and other people who, are victimless criminals. But it goes on. District attorney and even state attorney general. So she was the top cop, the top boss of all the cops in whatever state she comes from. I'm not sure what that is. But this lady's bad news. Harris proved being quite willing to live up to the epithet. In the public eye, she spoke of racial justice and liberal values, bolstering her cred as one of the Democratic Party's rising stars. But behind closed doors, she repeatedly fought for more aggressive prosecution of not just violent criminals, but of people who committed misdemeanors and quality-of-life crimes. Every attorney general fights for state power and police prerogatives. It's part of the job. But over and over again, Harris went beyond the call of duty, fighting for harsher sentences, larger bail requirements, longer prison terms, more prosecution of petty crimes, greater criminal justice involvement in low-income and minority communities, and less due process for people in the system, less transparency, and less accountability for bad police. Wow. Now we're supposed to believe that all of a sudden she's all this reformer?
Right. Yeah. Opposite. Like I said, they'll say the opposite when they're running their campaign.
And that was just an excerpt from a lengthy cover story. You can check it out at Reason.com. I just wanted to add that in there.
Here's a believable quote from somebody who's not a politician and therefore not a filthy, dirty liar. We've learned this lesson many times with the prohibition of alcohol.
But have we though?
Or criminal? Well, we
should have learned it.
We've learned the lesson, just whether we're actually going to do anything about it. So we've learned this lesson many times with the prohibition of alcohol or criminalization of abortion or even the criminalization of marijuana. Mm-hmm. The black market creates dark circumstances and provides cover for a lot of violence and exploitation, said Caitlin Bailey, a comedian and former prostitute who serves as the spokeswoman for Decriminalized Sex Work, which was founded last year. Prostitution is only legal in a few counties in Nevada, and even there, the brothel industry had to recently beat back a bill that would have outlawed prostitution in the state. And even the most optimistic of those pushing for changes do not believe that any state will soon fully decriminalize prostitution. Sex workers...
Nope, probably not anytime soon.
Sex workers harassed, assaulted, and illegally targeted for deportations amid a culture of xenophobia after Brexit. Camp writers say, this must have been a caption from a picture. I'm using a...
Well, this is also a UK story, so that's why they're talking about Brexit here.
Yeah. So, I believe that there was a picture in the article here that I was just reading a caption for, unfortunately. But it says, but in places like New York, where Democrats now control the state legislature after a few...
They didn't before in New York?
Yeah, right. Suddenly they control the state legislature. Anyway, after a slew of Republican incumbents were unseated in November by Democratic challengers, I guess maybe they did just get control, or maybe they didn't have control, but more of a stalemate before. But anyway. In November, they were unseated by Democratic challengers running on progressive platforms. There is no question that the environment has changed. At a recent rally in Albany to repeal the statute criminalizing loitering for the purposes of prostitution, former sex workers stood next to lawmakers like Ms. Ramos and Richard N. Gottfried, chairman of the Health Committee. Nonetheless, some advocates for sex-trafficked and abused women characterize such efforts in New York and elsewhere as misguided. They believe that full decriminalization will create a demand that will be filled by more women. Prostitution.
Duh. I mean, if there is a greater demand, it'll be filled by women, presumably. Although there are certainly some male sex workers out there, but it doesn't say they'll be filling it with sex trafficked victims. It'll be women who want to make some money and aren't, as afraid to do it because maybe they won't go to prison over it.
Prostitution is inherently violent, said Ann Matheson, a program specialist at Sanctuary for Families, a Manhattan-based organization that serves victims.
Is she fat or ugly?
I don't know. No picture, at least that I can see.
What was her name?
Ann Matheson, spelled
in New York.
A-N-E.
Okay.
A-N-E, so AIN, maybe.
Annie?
AIN. I think it's just AIN.
Yeah, it could be.
Manhattan-based organization that serves victims of domestic violence and is part of the Anti-Decriminalization Coalition. Sex buying promotes sex trafficking and promotes pimping and organized crime and sexual exploitation of children. The push to present decriminalization as a civil rights issue has also upset Laura Ramirez, a co-coordinator for AFIRM, that's spelled with a 3, an international feminist group who said she was absolutely appalled at the fact that this is being sold as something that's progressive. Women shouldn't be able to control their bodies. Male lawmakers should. That's the feminist view, right? We should have laws. It's sort of like, when they say, men shouldn't be able to make this decision like Roe versus Wade.
God.
Oh, wait, what was the Supreme Court's composition when Roe versus Wade was decided? Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's ridiculous. The proposed legislation is the most classist, racist, and absolutely obtuse legislation that we have ever seen, Ms. Ramirez said during a counter-protest opposing decriminalization in Albany, adding, "Women and girls of this state deserve better." While decriminalization is unlikely to pass in New York this year, a pair of bills dealing with elements of prostitution appear to have a greater chance of passing, including one that would vacate non-prostitution-related crimes like drug charges from the records of victims of sex trafficking.
I think it's interesting, the opponents to this stuff. I mean, to look at what they're saying and how they're trying to claim here that they're in favor of women. But really what they're in favor of is restricting the sex marketplace. They're in favor of giving certain women the ability to have more control over men.
And how could you be against something like this? This bill that would vacate non-prostitution related crimes like drug charges from the records of victims of sex trafficking, because they're obviously they also tend to have drugs forced on them, and then they get they catch drug charges because they've been forced into slavery.
They want to punish these women. These people. We'll come back with more. It's Free Talk Live, 855-450 free. Hey, it's Free Talk Live. We have enough time for you. Perhaps if you get on the phones now, our toll-free number is 855-450 free. Talking about the efforts to decriminalize prostitution nationwide. Johnson, you've got a story from the UK's Independent that we're sharing about that. Plus, if you want to comment on whatever's on your mind, you can join us here. It's Ian Johnson and Silver Dave in the studio here tonight. Don't forget, Johnson, you sell the official Free Talk Live gear, our T-shirts and still got the hoodies, I imagine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Over on Liberty Minded.
And I've dramatically, you're not going to get a hoodie of this quality for as low of a price because I don't have a lot of space where I'm living here in New Hampshire, and I don't feel like renting a warehouse.
Right.
So
you've got it in a closet.
I'm storing all these, and it's like, I'd like my closet. I know I'm not going to get my closet, but I've lowered the price of these things because, I would actually
price cut.
I would like to
$20 off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I would like to be able to have more T-shirt variety. Actually, I would like to focus on T-shirts.
And the hoodies take up more room, right?
Yeah, they do. They take up a lot more room. And I may not discontinue hoodies entirely. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. I might just limit it down to one style and pick that style, but now I have far too many. It's ridiculous how many hoodies I have. So, I'm lowering them and hopefully they'll move.
Yeah, so you've got Free Talk Live merchandise featured on the site right now, and you have put a big price break on the zippered style hoodie.
Well,
and the other one, the pullover as well.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Go check them out over at libertyminded.com. But that's not all you have.
Some, completely offensive T-shirts that I wouldn't even recommend anyone wear, like my thin.
Because you could get attacked.
Yeah, like my Thin Blue Line Gang T-shirt, talking about the nation's largest gang. The police. Some other shirts. Just Steal It, which is a spoof on.
It's got the communist logo on it. It's red and yellow.
Yeah. Some cryptocurrency.
I don't think
shirts,
I've seen this one before.
Property shirts.
There's one with a criminal in a balaclava pointing a gun at you, and it says, "The honest tax collector says, relax, it's for the roads." Available in multiple colors, by the way.
Yeah.
and of course sizes and such.
Yep.
So get on over there. There's some really cool stuff that Johnson's got going on. You cannot get these shirts anywhere else. These are pretty pretty original content that you came up with some input from some fans and such. People are ordering their shirts over at libertyminded.com. You still have the LRN shirts as well?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
LRN.FM t-shirts and more. Get on over to libertyminded.com. Grab some hoodies. Perfect time of the year to get a hoodie because, you don't want to get it in the wintertime. You want to get it now because in the wintertime, they're more expensive in a lot of cases.
I mean, either way, if you get them from me, you're getting a very good deal.
And they're good quality, too.
Yeah, because they are the heavyweight Gildan style hoodies, which means that they are, mostly cotton. I believe it depends on whether or not it's the full zip or the pullover. One of them is 100% cotton. The other one's a little bit of a blend. But they are very high quality hoodies. And, most people who have gotten them are wearing them like a decade later.
It's true. That's how long they've been around.
Yeah. And some people are still wearing the original hoodie that they bought to me, and I will see them floating around at PorcFest here in a week. Hoodies
which
that
you
I sold.
used to sell at these events, but you're it's online only now. So.
Yeah, it wasn't, and there's when you have a specific market and you have the same people going to that place,
they've all got
year after year.
Yeah.
I've saturated that market, and it's just. I will still sell plenty of stuff if I'm not bringing a huge variety, which for me it's hard to bring a huge variety of t-shirts again because I don't have the room because I've got a closet full of hoodies. So
a lot of these shirts are print on demand anyway, right?
Now I've kind of gone to that model because it
makes sense.
Makes more sense for me specifically. There are some that maybe I would screen print in the future if I this model is very good to sort of figure out what's going to be popular and what's not. And it's nice, too, because I can still have a shirt and I can go into a niche weird market. I have to be careful, though. So, for example, the Fedora the Explorer shirt that I have, that's about, software distribution freedom and stuff like that. Right. It's kind of mocking that and mocking people hopping around distros on Linux. I can't print this shirt anymore. So I
couldn't even. I thought you.
I found a new printer. The new printer has said no now too.
Wow.
Yeah, they're all very scared that they're going to get sued by Viacom. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the amount of fear that these companies have over anything that could possibly represent, something.
Oh, I see a shirt with a Facebook logo on it. Why aren't they afraid of printing that?
I know. But they have said we might have problems with some of your other stuff in the future. We'll let you know.
So those Dora the Explorer or Fedora the Explorer shirts are going to be real collector's items for those that did order them, right?
Well, I'll find another way to get them printed.
Okay, all right, cool.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But still, if it's a banned shirt, then the price should go up, right? All right, so check it out, libertyminded.com. Let's bring David on the line. He's in Albuquerque. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David.
Yeah, first of all, since Kamala is running for president, everybody should Google Kamala the wrestler so you can have that visual image when you're listening to Kamala Harris. Matter of fact, I think the dude's real name is the same. I think his last is Harris, too.
Hold on, you're saying Kamala's a dude?
James Harris, yeah. James Harris is Kamala the Ugandan headhunter.
Oh, I see. He's like a WWE or something like that?
Yeah, and he's got the same last name as Kamala Harris.
I see.
James Harris.
How about
cool.
that? All right.
Anyway,
anything else?
Cool.
Prostitution. In the Netherlands, not only is prostitution legal all over Europe and other places in the world, but in the Netherlands, they consider sex a necessity for life. And so people that are disabled over there, legally disabled, homebound types, this guy's dead now, so I can talk about him. Pat Murdoch died. He was a judge here in New Mexico, and the cops did a sting on him and busted him for hiring prostitutes to come and have sex with him. He was disabled. He was about 4'6" or something, and had polio type disease. I don't know what he had for sure, but obviously he wasn't able to go out and pick up chicks.
Right.
And so he was paying them for it, and he got busted.
Put him in a jail cell.
Anyway, pardon?
I said put him in a jail cell, that criminal.
Yeah.
How dare
in
he?
In the Netherlands, in the Netherlands, they consider sex a need, a legitimate need. And so once a month, the state will pay the $50 or $100 for a prostitute to visit disabled people if they want it.
Wow.
As part of their health care, because they consider.
Do you get to pick, or do they pick for you?
Your HMO plan. Yes, you get to pick your doctor and you pick your prostitute. Not like those other ones where they just assign one to you that you may not like as much.
David, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you.
Do you think they have networks?
What do you mean?
Like, you have to pick a prostitute that's in network.
Oh, right. Maybe so.
Copay.
What's the copay?
It's like $8 copay.
Is there more here, Johnson, that you wanted to share from this independent story, or should we find out about mind control in like the last 2 minutes?
Take a look here.
Which isn't really fair to do.
I don't know if we can really cover this.
Yeah.
This is a patent for, but I feel like maybe another time, but
maybe tomorrow, maybe next week.
Maybe next week.
Are you going to be on next week, Johnson? Are you here for that?
No,
you're going to be
not.
at Porkfest.
I will not.
So it'll just be me and you, Dave.
Let me skip ahead in the article here to this part.
All right,
this is relevant. The Maine bill was declared dead in the state Senate
New York?
in late May. Yeah.
Okay.
No, the Maine bill. Maine.
Okay.
The Maine bill was declared dead in the state Senate in late May, but other recent efforts have also stalled. In 2017, for instance, the New Hampshire House of Representatives narrowly passed a bill establishing a legislative committee to study decriminalizing sex work, like the current proposal in Rhode Island. But the New Hampshire bill stalled in the state Senate amid strong opposition from Governor Chris Newsnew, a Republican.
Who does the bidding of the police.
Yep. The bill's sponsor, Elizabeth Edwards, left office last year, but
Free Stater.
Yep.
Who since has rejected libertarianism.
But said she hopes that her former colleagues will continue to fight. It seems
at least she hasn't been hostile, to her credit. She actually wrote a blog post on her blog all about why she is no longer identifying as a libertarian. But unlike unlike another state representative who's actively hostile towards her previous friends who are libertarians, she's actually still, Elizabeth Edwards is still friends with the libertarians. She's still at least, friendly and works together with them.
Yeah.
So
she says it seems like an area of policy where we could do way better. I wish the world knew that these are just people making money in a way that I think is a net societal benefit.
Right.
Ms. Edwards, a Democrat, added, there are always going to be people that want sex. It's a basic human drive. All you can do is make it safer.
By legalizing
And this
activity.
article ended on a Free Stater quote.
Yeah, I love it. And that was from The Independent.
From The Independent.
Very cool. Yeah. We'll shoot that over on our social media, on Twitter and Mastodon, twitter.freetalklive.com. The Mastodon is toot.freetalklive.com. Also, telegram.freetalklive.com. And see you tomorrow, freetalklive.com in the meantime.
You love Bitcoin. It's the future, right? Well, no, not if everyone stops using it. I mean, think about it. How many places in your town take Bitcoin? One? None? Let's be real. If this Bitcoin thing is ever going to happen, it's going to need your help. The good news is, the guys at AnyPay have your back. We built a website called helpmetakebitcoin.com. And it's a place you can send any business. And they'll be set up to take Bitcoin in 5 minutes. Helpmetakebitcoin.com.